Hello, welcome to Red Read. Today I'm filming one of my last two videos for the end of the year. I mentioned in my Infinite Jest video that I wanted to do a bookshelf tour. I'm also going to do a kind of 2022 awards, some of my favorite reads or highlights. But yeah, I'm going to get started and quickly just jump into the books that I currently have on my bookshelf. I think last count around my Excel spreadsheet is telling me it's between 320 and 350 books. But yeah, I've got them into different sections. So I'm going to go over them one by one. The books that are over here are my immediate to be reads. Because of the position of the bed in the room, I can't exactly get the camera in there, so I'm just going to kind of pull them out and show them to you. But for the rest of them, my non-fiction, fiction unread, fiction read, and genre fiction, I'll be able to just kind of have a stationary camera pointing at them. But yeah, I'll get started with the books that I have kind of on my bedside table or above bed head table that I plan more or less on just trying to smash through all of them next year, or as much of them as I can. They're the ones I'm most hyped immediately to read. Stack number one, I've got these. These are more or less the immediate 10 ish books that I want to read, a bit less because I've actually read one of them and moved it to the read section. But yeah, here I've got so in order, I've got the Iliad right here, I've got the Iliad and Odyssey. I have the Notebook of Malta Lawrence Brigg by Rainer Maria Rilke, which from whom I've read the Duino Elegies and just like some segments from Letters to a Young Poet, Zadie Smith's White Teeth, which I'm very interested in. I've seen some interviews, and Zadie Smith is becoming like one of my favorite authors of whom I've not read anything. The non-fictions of Borges. This looking through this looks like some like Akashic Records shit. Like just if you read the table of contents, you'll be blown away. And so very excited to get into some Borges non-fiction. I've got one of three piles that's been collapsed, so yeah, hope we're going all right. V by Pynchon. I'm continuing my Pynchon next year. I very much want to smash out the last of his books, and I actually one of them's in the mail, Bleeding Edge, but I do own all Pynchon, and so very excited to finish him off next year. White Noise by DeLillo. I think this is what I'm going to read next, actually. Yeah, and then after that, maybe Donald Barthelme's 60 Stories. The next stack. So those are pretty much my the ones I'm going to read almost definitely in order, or just those out of those 8 or 9. I'm going to read those, and then I'm going to just kind of pick and choose throughout the year, depending on which ones I really feel like. I'll go over to the next pile. May as well restore this one that's been obliterated. Cool, so a couple of shorter things. I want to read The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Gambler. I've got Isherwood's Goodbye to Berlin, which I've kept the receipt because I actually bought this at Dussmann Das Culture House in Berlin, which is very cool, and Leaving the Atocha Station by Ben Lerner. I also have some pretty much brand new authors. Satin Tango by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, you'll see in the unread section. I have some more Krasznahorkai, and I have so many of his books now, but have not read any, but I know I'm going to love it. The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. All of these hopefully going to be able to smash through and get through next year. Voltaire's Candide, The Devils by Dostoevsky, A Naked Singularity by Sergio de la Pava, and a collection of Buddhist scriptures from Penguin Classics. Lastly, in this pile, there's Colleen Hosseini's 1,000 Splendid Suns, which I've had all year, but I've just not kind of felt the right vibe at any point to go in and read it, but I do want to smash it out. And Wild Swans, I picked this up from Book Grocer for like $5 because it has this giant text marker line on the bottom, but seems really good. I'm realizing I'm looking at the time. There's no way I'm going to be able to do plot summaries or anything for the books, so I'm just going to be smashing through them. Yukio Mishima's Confessions of a Mask, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I'm sure I've read, but I don't really remember enough of it to I think it warrants a reread. Orlando by Virginia Woolf. I liked A Room of One's Own, and you'll probably notice, I don't know if they've if I've come to them so far. But scattered in here is sorry, Orlando, you've been lost. Scattered in here is the remaining books of Leaf by Leaf's Western Core series, which is one of my goals for next year. Mason Dixon, oh, I know I'm going to enjoy this. And again, another author who I've not read anything of, but I know I'm going to enjoy, The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I also have Foucault's Pendulum that's coming up very shortly. And oh man, everything about this guy is just telling me that he is an author for me. Anyway, moving on to, I'll just try and hold all of these together. So I've got Faust, I've got Marcel Proust's In Search of Lost Time, the first one, Swan's Way, Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, Cartarescu's Nostalgia, Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, and Dostoevsky's The Idiot. Yeah, I think I might be able to finish off most of the Dostoevsky next year as well, because I've really only read Crime and Punishment and Brothers K. Wuthering Heights by Bronte, another Western Core, poetry of Emily Dickinson. I think I've already read like most of this, but I'll go back and reread it just in like a sitting. Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, Austen's Pride and Prejudice, another book that I've had all year, but I've just not found I've just not found the Austen spark. And I think aside from Mansfield Park, I own like all of her major novels, but I've not read any Austen yet. It's kind of tragic. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I know I'm not going to read War and Peace for a long, long time, but Anna Karenina, or Karenina, I don't know how to pronounce it, is definitely a next year prospect. Leaves of Grass, which is actually a Western Core as well, and Where Angels Fear to Tread in this cool little hardcover. Corbo Arbe's The Woman in the Dunes, because I read The Boxman, and that'll actually show up in the next video of a kind of video awards. But now we're getting down to the big three. These are ones that I am like, we've got Don Quixote by Cervantes, which I think. Oh no, it's not the next in the Western Core series. I think it's I think the next for me in the Western Core. Well, actually, still haven't read the Iliad and the Odyssey. But then after I read Canterbury Tales, it'll be onto Don Quixote. But Gaddis, I am hyped. I so want to make it a thing that I get through both of these books next year. Everything I've heard about Gaddis, he's probably competing with Zadie Smith as like my favorite author that I haven't read. But yeah, those are like the next most immediate TBRs. So that's pretty much like, I'll be happy if I can read all of those in 2023. Yeah, and I'll start moving on to next move sections. I'm gonna edit and try to kind of get some close-up shots. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to just kind of point and scroll through some of the books that I have. It's a bit hard to classify this section. This is just like the big hardcover section, but you can pretty much tell that there's a certain theme of the sorts of books that I buy as hardcovers. For Christmas, I got the Codex Serafinianus, which if you don't know what that is, just look that up and prepare to have your mind blown. I've got some music books like Guitar Method I'd use when teaching. I've got some Bach, Stravinsky, and Lawrence D. Butch Morris, which might be one of the rarer books I have, actually, funnily enough. Principles of Orchestration, Take 6 scores. That's just music stuff that I figured I'd get out of the way. But also have the Egyptian Book of the Dead, The Anatomy of Melancholy by Burton, Complete Works of Shakespeare, which I have another one somewhere that's not a hardcover, and The Divine Comedy by Dante. Going through with these, I have just, this is so really miscellaneous, but Behind Bars, this is basically a textbook on music engraving and notation. 20th Century Harmony by Persichetti, kind of analyzing the music and harmony of 20th century musicians like Stravinsky and Schoenberg, etc. The William H. Gass Reader, Story of China, Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, A Big Complete Tale of Genji, The Silmarillion by Tolkien, and Mimesis by Eric Auerbach. Over here, I've got more like theology and religion. So I've got two versions of the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Book of Zhuangzi, the Tao Te Ching. I've got Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. I figured I may as well just put it here, right? I've got the KJV Holy Bible, and then some mythology, Arabian Nights, 3 Japanese Buddhist monks, another Greek mythology, and a first aid kit. I forgot to mention as well, this guy. This is Stenger. He's keeping Anatomy of Melancholy and Shakespeare and Dante company. So moving on, yeah, I don't really know how to classify them, and I'll probably give a forewarning going ahead. My books are really not organized at all, so yeah, you're just gonna have to bear with me. Okay, and so over here we start to get into the philosophy section. Again, I'm kind of just my main philosophy, or pardon the pun, but my main approach rather when it comes to stacking books is, if I'm going for Horis, they really can't be organized in any way except height. So some books like this Hegel and this Wittgenstein, they kind of need to go at the bottom just because they're slightly bigger. But then I try, keep the Penguin classics together and so on. But anyway. Wittgenstein, Hegel, Herodotus, the histories, don't really know where to put that. Like, maybe it'd be better over here in the theology section, but yeah, Kant, Plato, Seneca, Montaigne, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Art of Happiness, Plato's The Symposium, which I really recommend for anyone wanting to get into philosophy. Actually, it's just a hoot. Kant's Critique of Judgment, which one day I'll be powerful enough for that. The Nicomachean Ethics, St. Augustine, Confessions, Art of Rhetoric, and Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Moving over here, I've got some of the, let's just say, like, to put it bluntly, sort of like B tier of philosophy. Or some of the smaller books that sort of need to be here, again adhering to the size is king for stacking Horis. Social Contract, The Gay Science, Beyond Good and Evil, Fundamental Principles of the Metaphysics of Morals, which I swear I've made it like 3 times. I've tried to read that and I just implode and explode. Sartre's Modern Times, Communist Manifesto, Myth of Sisyphus, which I didn't really like that much actually, Constellations of Philosophy, Psychology of Love, Essays and Aphorisms by Schopenhauer, and On the Origin of Species. I thought that'd be kind of funny to include in the philosophy section. Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung and Viktor E. Frankl. Over here, this sort of stack is really just like kind of books that I want to be able to just grab, read, browse really quickly, and then move on with my life. So there's some language books like Essential Mandarin and German, but then Equations That Changed the World, essays by David Foster Wallace, and some stuff by Nabokov. Forces in Motion, I've already made a video of. It's one of my favorite books and biographies. And behind, just some sort of like books that I don't really think I'll ever get around to reading. Or that I've already read and I kind of don't care for showing off. So let me go around and look. Yeah, there's Miles's Order, Ordinary Man by Browning, a book on Gandhi, and then some other stuff like the Gulag Archipelago. I think I've read like maybe a fifth or a quarter of. The biography on Borges. I was so keen to read that until I read that Wallace had wrote a more or less bad review for that. And so now I'm just like, okay, well, maybe I'll still go through and read it for general information stuff, but I won't take it like gospel or anything. And then just other miscellaneous books, that kind of, they're just screwing me over, being different sizes. So yeah, this is pretty much the composite of my non-fiction section. I'm going to move on now, kind of adjust. I've got my fiction organized in terms of read and unread to just make life a bit easier. Okay, so now jumping down into my unread fiction section. Something you might notice is that this is actually a bit of a modular setup where there are multiple piles. They're stacked behind, so yeah, there's quite a lot of books that I'm going to get through, but these front rows are sort of like, so the books on my bedside table are like the A tier. These are like the A-1 tier. They're like the next most immediates, and the one behind are fictions that I'm like, am I going to read these in the next 3-4 years? Maybe not. So I've just got these up the front, and yeah, quickly running through them. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, which I have read, but when I reread it, I'll reread it in this book. 100 Years of Solitude, Zadie Smith, Telo Calvino, Kenzaburo Oe, which I think I heard about him through Murakami in Norwegian Wood. Bolaño's 2666, that is another big book I'd like to get through. The Aeneid and Against the Day. If I can, I'd really, really love to finish off Pynchon next year. Nabokov's The Gift, which is the only fiction Nabokov. Oh no, there's another one I bought just recently, or just yesterday. So yeah, The Gift, and then there's Tolkien's translation of The Green Knight, which is really cool. And I just realized I have another version of The Idiot here, which is I think the other one's a Wordsworth and this is a Penguin. So yeah, moving on, we've got Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, Nabokov's Invitation to a Beheading, which I think he said was his best work, even better than Lolita. Fathers and Sons, which is sort of a book club thing that I'll be wanting to read. Catcher in the Rye, 2 Crush and Hawkeye books, especially The Melancholy of Resistance. Everyone's been talking up and saying it's great. Some more of these Arcturus things that, I'll be able to smash them out in like a day or two each. Master and Margarita, Beloved, The Iliad, Brave New World, which I'm sure I've read, but again, it's been so long that I kind of as if haven't read it, so I don't mind rereading it. And Dracula, which I'm super, super keen for. Before I move on, just ducked over to the side here, I have poetry complete of Sylvia Plath, William Gaddis's Carpenter's Gothic, Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ullman, Jerusalem by Alan Moore, James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, The Metamorphosis, and Emma by Jane Austen. Now let me do some modular shenanigans, and I'll move these here. I'll talk about the books behind. Oh, there's my other Shakespeare. So I know it's getting a bit dark. There's a Secret Garden tucked up there. Jane Eyre, Middlemarch, East of Eden, Farewell to Arms, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, The Fountainhead, War and Peace, One Day, and another complete works of Shakespeare if I want to read with somebody else. And let's duck these over. I've got Hemingway's A Movable Feast, De Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, Austen's Persuasion. I swear all of my Jane Austen books are just different editions. It's crazy. Howard's End, Confederacy of Dunces, W.B. Yeats's The Poems, Tess of D'Urbervilles by Tom Hardy. I've got Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, A Room with a View, Underworld, and then some more of these kind of really cheap but not bad Collins classic editions, Great Expectations, Sense and Sensibility, Tender is the Night. So yeah, I know I'm not gonna want to read any of those behind ones before any of these forward ones, so that's why I've just got these. I've got them displayed as such, and this is my fiction to be read shelf. Nice little pineal gland sitting here as well. Now we'll move on over to my fiction read. A lot of these have shown up in videos, so yeah, and won't really need to give a whole lot of comments or commentary on them, but yeah, I think it's set up kind of nicely. So again, a little bit modular. Up the front, I've just got Infinite Jest, Moby Dick, Boxman, Snow Country, fictions, like both Borges collections. I've got Ulysses, Crime and Punishment, which has sort of survived being dropped in water, and The Brothers K. I've got a bunch of the vintages that I've read. So Old Man and the Sea, Dubliners, Sailor Who Fell from Grace, Slaughterhouse 5, A Single Man, complete stories of Kafka, complete short stories. I'm also realizing that similar to Austen, I think all of my Joyce, all 4 of his books are in different editions. All of my Nabokov, that's there, and you can read at your leisure, and all of the the 5 Pynchon books that I've read already. Moving these aside, again, like a kind of B tier list of books that I've read, and I didn't mind them, but I don't really care to show them off as much as these ones. So Bart's Lost in the Funhouse, which I just finished last night actually, and it was awesome. Daniel Keyes Flower for Algernon, Girl, Woman, Other, Murder on the Orient Express, a couple of these Arcturus books that so I've either read these or I've read these as books before. There's another copy of Dubliners there, and I've obviously read 1984 Call of Cthulhu. I read that in that section. Heart of Darkness both here and I have a Heart of Darkness over there because that has other stories in it. So yeah, Fahrenheit 451, Bluest Eye, Piranesi, Fight Club, No Longer Human. These again are having to comply by the size is king rule for stacking Horis, because they are the Dover editions, and these are slightly bigger and just love screwing with me. So yeah, this is my red, and over here I've got a kind of dedicated pile just for books that are of just the worst size and screwing me over. So there's Tolstoy's Death of Ivan Ilyich, The Road, Handmaid's Tale, Christmas Carol, Animal Farm, Cat's Cradle, Lolita, and A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Over there at the far end is mostly poetry, and just hardcovers or really absurdly big books that I kind of can't fit anywhere else. So there's poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, John Keats, Paradise Lost, T.S. Eliot, and the Duino Elegies. There's also a hardcover of No Longer Human, as I'm sure you can see. Moving on, lucky last, we've actually got the genre fiction section, which mainly ends up just being sci-fi and fantasy, but yeah, I'll run through those really quickly. Cool. So yeah, last up we have some genre fiction sections, basically with these Sanderson here. This is Stormlight Archive. I also have like the first book, The Way of Kings, and just some more Sanderson up the back. It's probably going to be a bit of a hassle to move that pile, but yeah, just like Mistborn, First Era, and I've got a large respect there as well. Some of my favorite sci-fi, so I've got Ted Chiang's stories, I've got the Three Body series and Ken Liu's paper stories. I've not read Snow Crash, I've read Neuromancer, but not any of the others, and I've not read The Complete iRobot yet. There's another, I've not read The Complete Robot, I've just read the stories that are from iRobot. Of course, the Dune books, but I haven't read Chapter House Dune. That's the only one I have left. Solaris by Lem, which is awesome. Arthur C. Clarke's 2001 Space Odyssey. Grace of Kings, one day I'll get around to that. The Left Hand of Darkness by Le Guin, which I am keen for. I want to reread this because I've only read Blindsight, but not Echo Proxia. So I'll read that when I want to reread Blindsight, basically. The City in the City by Mielville. The two Philip K. Dick books that I have, I love both of them. This series I've already made a video on. A lot of these I guess I've made a video on. And The Veiled Throne, which similar to The Story of China, it just has this big ghastly mark on the back, on the bottom. So I got it for a good deal. There's a mystery book here, which is not really a mystery. I know what it is, but my family do this for me. For my birthday, January, a stranger steps into our yard and we have questions, which is a rendezvous with Rama, and I can open that on the 1st of January. I'm going to do some shuffling around to show some of the books behind, but there's actually not as many books behind as you would think. It's kind of funny. So this is a little bit wacky, but I have basically supporting some of these more fantasy and sci-fi books. I just have a bunch of Roald Dahl books written in simplified Chinese. I can't read Chinese, but yeah, maybe one day. It's a bit of a goal or a challenge. I've got some Switch games, but then I also have Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Dispossessed, Hyperion, which I am really keen for, but I don't know if I've sort of changed or evolved or grown in my literary taste when I'm more keen for the Hyperion failed epic by John Keats than the sci-fi book by Dan Simmons. Really loved reading all of the Lord of the Rings books. This is the robot book that I've read, Flatland, Last Unicorn. This is actually, and then yeah, like I just sort of wanted to put these away because I know I'm not going to read them. Murakami's books I've sort of talked about, Kafka on the Shore and Norwegian Wood I did like the most. I will read 1Q84. And I've already made videos talking about the Liu books. The only extra ones I have that I haven't talked about in videos are that I have pretty much all the Witcher books, and I have read all of them except Season of Storms. You can kind of see the pattern continues. It's just Mistborn, First Era, and Elantris back there. And that's pretty much it for my bookshelf, actually. That's all the books I have. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed kind of perusing my bookshelf. Hopefully my bookshelf tour is not going to be that different next year, because I am planning on enacting a soft book ban. Soft meaning that I am happy to still be drip fed books once a month by my family doing the kind of surprise mystery books. But yeah, I'm really keen to just sort of go through and hopefully actually read all of the books that I own, rather than more or less doubling the size of my bookshelf, which is what I did this year. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.